Something I find interesting about our lives is that there are things around us that are constantly trying to impose a narrative upon us. And these are people, these are organizations, systems that are constantly trying to tell us what an event means, what a moment is worth, what's valuable, what we should focus on, what's good, what's bad, what we should want, what we should love or hate or fear, and how we should feel about ourselves if we don't buy into the narrative. This narrative industry, it tries to impose itself on all of us, but not everyone seems to be affected the same. It seems to really cling to insecurity, to dysfunctions and ignorance. What makes things more complicated is that there's competitors in this industry. So we're constantly bombarded with conflicting messages about value, meaning, identity, purpose, priorities, and not all sources of narrative have bad motivations. Sometimes people or organizations just want to help by telling us about our limitations or what's good for us, and yet so often they unwittingly do the devil's work for him by trying to cage us, limit us, define us, make us dependent on something for our fulfillment or our happiness. Even Jesus basically called one of his disciples Satan when he tried to do something helpful, because it was actually the opposite. Peter's intentions were good, but what he wanted to do was damaging. I once got in a fight in a parking lot of a Chinese restaurant in California, and most of my family was there, and it ended up with me and this guy rolling around on the hood of an off-duty police officer's car. And there was someone there with me at the time that was supposed to be on my side, and he tried to break up the fight by attempting to pry my arms open so that I would let this guy go, not realizing that he would be giving this guy I was fighting the opportunity to wail on me. He was almost literally tying my hands behind my back. And, with friends like that, who needs enemies? So good intentions aren't enough. And while not everyone in this narrative industry has bad intentions, almost all of them are causing damage. So this narrative industry, it's not united. It has a lot of different players and teams, and all of them are trying to tell us which moments are worth remembering. It tells us how we should feel when someone says or does something in particular, which countries we should want to bomb, which countries we should want to love. It tries to tell us what adulthood means, what manhood is, what womanhood is. And of course, it's always trying to tell us what to buy. One of the things I've discovered is that it kind of fancies itself as an interpreter of life. And if we allow it, it categorizes everything for us. It evaluates everything for us. A moment is never allowed to just be a moment, so we don't get to experience life in its pure form. Sometimes it feels like I'm letting other people or systems hijack my consciousness and live my life for me. I find that idea repulsive. It feels parasitic. I hate the idea of being a host that a parasite feeds on. Yet sometimes I feel like I'm watching a movie about my life. I can see myself in it, but I can't really feel it. I'm experiencing life through so many filters I've adopted that it feels like my experience has been distilled down to ones and zeros, like I've cropped out all the mystery, rounded off the rough edges, and that I'm placing each moment in its proper drawer, and I'm doing it live time. As it's happening, this is the life that I'm living. And I'm chopping things up, I'm categorizing based on these narratives that I've adopted. That's a lot of work. No wonder I'm tired all the time. I've been wondering how big the narrative industry actually is, like in dollars or in manpower. How many people are employed by a company that is trying to frame reality for us? You'd have to include all news, most of the output of entertainment in whatever form it might take, all the marketing, Every company that has something for sale, or almost every company, religion, philosophy, pharmaceuticals, there's narrative in almost everything. And I guess it's not all unhealthy or bad for us. Some of it helps us get through life. Some of it gives us structure and framework, especially when we're younger. And it's got me wondering if I'm part of the problem. I'm sitting here saying there's a narrative industry. Well, doesn't that mean that I'm trying to frame the world in a certain way? Aren't I trying to interpret the world for others when I say there's a narrative industry? Every time I share an opinion, am I just doing the same thing that I'm speaking against? I don't know, maybe. Maybe that's why there's something about all this content I'm creating that doesn't feel right. Maybe I just need to leave everybody alone. So if good motivation isn't enough, what can I actually say that feels somewhat pure? What can I actually share that doesn't feel like it's going to be a limitation or a cage? That's not going to be a chain or a leash. I guess I could say I believe in you. I can share that with people. I can demonstrate that to people. That feels pretty good. That feels pretty freeing. That feels like it lacks the kind of imposition of a narrative that I'm opposed to. It's amazing how subversive an idea can be. It's amazing how subversive freedom can be. To love people, to say, I believe in you. It's shocking how much money and influence the system stands to lose when we love each other and believe in each other. If we were really okay with ourselves, millions of people would actually lose their jobs. The truth about who we are might be the most dangerous opposition to the narrative industry. There's nothing wrong with us. We're okay. We don't have to listen to anything that tells us otherwise. We don't have to apologize for existing. We were not born with a debt to pay. Saying things like that, helping to set people free, showing people that we believe in them, is the best way to get on a most wanted list. If that's what you do with your life, it'll make you the most dangerous person in the nation. So if you're like me, if you've got a destructive streak in you, if you feel like a part of you was built to destroy, then consider maybe pursuing the path of love and freedom and truth. I've never experienced anything in my life that was more destructive to bad forces than those things. All right, here we are, one of those paradise coves outside of a town called Elo. And there's a little place here. You can come and get some food. Even some grass, which I like. So you do have to ride down from up there to get here. A little bit of work, but it's worth it.